If you're anything like me, you get into miniature painting through Warhammer. And with this, also your first tutorials and your first learnings was by watching Games Workshop's video tutorials or following the step-by-steps in the back of their boxes. But you end up with something that quite doesn't look like it does on the front of the box or any of the pieces of art that you see entered into Golden Demon or maybe Crystal Brush. So let's debunk the myths about painting with volumes, with lights, to make you understand what makes some miniatures look better in probably the most important video I will ever release. Hey friends, you're watching Squidmar Miniatures, I'm Emil. And as I mentioned in the intro, there's more to miniature painting than just doing a base coat and adding a layer of wash on top of it.
Why is this, Emil?
Well, there's something called physics and light, and I'm not going to bore you to death today talking about physics and maths and science and stuff like that. It's about painting, but really light is key to painting good miniatures. Because if we want our miniatures to look good, we need to base them in real life. And I'm not asking you to become a master in lights and physics, but we're going to talk about how to make your miniatures read better for the eye. And to do that, your miniatures need to follow a few sets of basic rules, or at least be inspired by these rules so that your brains can understand and comprehend what's actually happening in this piece of art that you created. And our brains are quite smart, so if there's nothing that's based in reality, your brain will tell you directly that there's something wrong, something quite doesn't add up, and it looks a bit weird. But if you follow these rules, your brain will instinctively tell you that this stuff looks kind of good. But this is no masterclass. I myself, for example, see myself still as a student of light, even though I worked 8 years in photography, and photography is pretty much light. But I hope to open your eyes with this. I hope that this will help you to at least understand what makes some things look better than others, and that you can implement some of these things into the way that you paint, so you don't always have to follow a step-by-step from someone, that you can actually start understanding how you can place your highlights and what highlights would work and why stuff looks better, without someone telling you exactly when to do it and where to place the highlight. And by the way guys, there's nothing wrong with following a step-by-step tutorial.
But Emil, heavy metal painters in Games Workshop never paints with light.
Well, if that's what you think, I'm afraid you're wrong. It's a common misconception that heavy metal painters always do the edge highlight and always do layers and then wash and then highlight, and that's not how it works. If you actually take a look and analyze at images, by the way, check out this video if you want to learn more about analyzing work, you will see that heavy metal painters actually implement all of these things themselves into the painting, but they usually do it more subtle than a lot of the master painters and all the competition painters and competition winners do, that take this technique to the max. One example of this could be these last Games Workshop models. If you take a look at the highlight, for example, here, and you look underneath it in the shadows, you will see a tonal variation and see that they actually paint with volumes and light. So where do we start about this super important subject? Well, let's start with the main shapes we have in life. There are actually 3 of them. The first one is the sphere or the ball. And the second one is the most common one. This is the cylinder. And the last shape we have is the cube, but it could also be referred to as different planes, because we have different planes of light, or flat surfaces, because that's how it shows up in different places on our miniatures. And these are called primary shapes because these are the shapes that most things in real life are based from. But these do change and interact with one another to create different forms of shapes and different types of variations of these shapes. So not everything you paint will be this simple, but if you get a basic understanding of the principle of this, we can take it to the next level later in this video. Also, this will give you all of the foundations you need to understand to make your miniatures look like they're based in real life. And also, when we're talking about light and how light hits these different things, there are exceptions to these rules. Some of them are, for example, metallics. Metallics reflects light differently than these type of things, but also if you want to illustrate things like glass, for example, or maybe hair, not this wig, but real hair reflect lights differently than thing like a ball or a shield or my skin, for example. But that's a discussion for another video, so let's leave that for now. Let's talk about sort of the basics and how this will improve your painting. So let's start with talking about the two most common shapes and probably the two simplest to understand. That is the sphere and the cylinder. These two are quite similar to each other, even though they're very different. What we need to know about these? Well, what we're talking about today is how to light these different things or paint light on these different things. And light generally follows the shape of these. For example, we have this cylinder, the light follows the shape of the cylinder, and the same thing goes with the ball. So let's take a few examples to kind of show you what I mean. So, for example, if the light comes from above the ball, the light will be replicating the shape of the ball on the top part of the ball. But if the light comes down, for example, to the front of the ball, the light will still replicate the shape of the ball, but will do it on the front part of the ball. Even though this light source that I have over here is square shaped, it always follows the shape of the object, not the shape of the light source. And the same thing goes for the cylinder. If the light hits the cylinder from above, you will have the shape of the cylinder highlighted from above and then the shadow on the bottom side. Here we also have a white table from underneath, so we have a little bit of a reflection, but that's step 2, I guess, in learning how to highlight things. And you will see no matter how I move this object, the light will still follow the shape of the object. But if the light is coming from one of the sides, you will also have a little bit of a fall off because one side of this cylinder is further away from the light source, meaning that the part that's closest to the light source, meaning this part when the light comes from here, is a little bit brighter than this side here. And depending on how far away the light source is and how long the object is, obviously, the difference between this brightest point and the darkest area of this cylinder will be different. But again, that's kind of masterclass level stuff, so let's just focus on the shape for now. So how can these different shapes manifest in our miniatures? Well, let's start with the spheres and the balls. Spheres can have many different shapes, like the top of our heads, shoulder pads, knee pads, a big belly, sledges, parts of an armor. Well, most of them are often half spheres or a mix between a sphere and a plane. Some muscles as well are spheres, but most of them are cylinders. Let's talk about the Lord of Blights, who have many different sphere-shaped objects. Take this helmet for starters. It starts with sort of a sphere shape on the top. So we'd have to highlight the helmet the same way as we would with a ball. And the same thing goes for these things on the shield, for example. This is a sphere or a half sphere, so if the light comes from above, the brightest point would be on the top, and then we shade it down the further down we come. With the ball, for example, we have a breaking point somewhere here, which would be the middle part where it would turn more into a shadow and the top part would be highlighted. One of the most common places that these occur is on knee pads on Space Marines and Stormcast miniatures. While these are not full spheres, we still have to think of them as full spheres. So, for example, take this ball. You are watching at this ball in 2 dimensions right now. You see the height and the width of it. But it has 3 different shapes, which means that if the light is coming from above, the highlight would be placed here. And the same goes for the knee pad. Even though you don't have this surface on the back here on the knee pad, you have to imagine the light hitting the knee pad as though this part was there as well. So from the angle you're looking, the brightest point is here, and then we shadow it down. Even though this would be the part that's most raised or leaning outwards most, and you say, well, I have to follow the shape of the object. Well, the object is not just a half sphere, it's actually a full sphere, and the light is coming from above. So the highlight won't be on the center part, it will be on the top part, which means that when you paint this, the highlight should be all the way up to the edge. And now onto the cylinder, which is the most common object that we see in real life. Why do you mean I never see cylinders in real life? Well, on this hand alone, you can see 5 cylinders. And on top of that, my whole arm is a cylinder. My whole body is a cylinder. All the trees, if I look out through the window, are cylinders. And if we take a look at a cylinder-shaped object lying on the ground with light from above, you will have a light that's brightest on the top point and have a hard shadow line in the middle of the cylinder. And that would be equivalent to maybe a cannon on a miniature, or maybe the thigh on this Idneth Deepkin, for example. But since cylinders on miniatures aren't always placed like this, legs are placed this angle, arms are placed this angle, we need to figure out how do we paint cylinders that are painted in different angles. Well, the important thing to remember here is, where is the light coming from? So if the light, for example, is coming from straight on, you can see that this beauty has all of this side highlighted, while you can't see the back of this, but the back side of this is all in shadow. So say they are holding the arms on the side instead, and the light is coming from above still. As you can see illustrated with this cylinder, the light is following along the whole side. So with this arm, for example, I need to place the highlight throughout the whole side of the miniature, but it's brightest towards the light source and a little bit darker towards the bottom. And considering things like the size of the light source and the strength of the light source would be a masterclass thing again. Most of the time when you paint the miniature, you think about the sky being the light source, and when the sky is the light source, it's huge. So these differences will be quite soft. So with this, I want to show you a couple of examples of cylinders on miniatures and things that have cylinders hidden in different objects. Let's jump into the computer, I think, and look at some photos. So let's take a look at this giant, for example. We can break him down into many different shapes. But let's start with the main and general one. If we blur him down, we can see that his whole body is pretty much a cylinder, which means that if the light is coming from above and we have light from the front as well, we need to highlight the miniature through the whole side, the center of him as a cylinder, the whole front side being a little bit brighter on top, starting with his head and being not as bright in the bottom because that's the furthest away from the light source. That's just simplifying him down to one large shape. He also have many small different ones as well, so on top of making that main one, we need to check out different small ones as well. So one of the smaller shapes that we can see here, for example, is his leg, which again is a cylinder. But if we take a look at his kneecap, which means that we need to highlight this kneecap as a sphere. So even though the whole grand thing should read as a cylinder, we have one part that we need to focus on to make it look like a sphere as well. And I found another example among my miniatures, which was this Troggoth that I've had on my shelf for a very long time. If we take a look at his arm, which is a cylinder, we have many small different muscles here that are cylinders, and these cylinders needs to be highlighted separately but still following the main shape of the body. So if this cylinder would be on the bottom part of the arm, for example, I would not highlight it the same way as if this extra cylinder is up here, but we still want to add that extra shape to it to make sure that it reads like a separate subject. And if we go back to the giant again, his arm is being a cylinder held up towards the light, which means that the light needs to be the brightest towards the sky, which is the top part of the arm, and then shadow on the bottom part of it. And another great example that I saw of this is the Stormcast shields, and a guy called Meth of Cooking Arts is an amazing painter. And normally when you look at a shield like this and just draw from your memory, you would think that this is a flat surface and that you need to highlight the flat surface and then all the details separately. But he did what I think is the best way of doing it is to break down the whole shield as one shape first, and then you highlight the small details accordingly, which means that the gold details on the shield here will only be highlighted in the center because of the sphere shape that it has. So the edges of these details shouldn't be highlighted the same way as the center should be. So let's talk about the last one. This is the cube, and the cube consists of different planes of light, and planes of light is probably the most difficult things to paint. You might think that it's the easiest, but actually it's quite hard. And the reason for this is because planes of light rarely comes in the shape of a cube on a miniature, or in real life for that matter. A plane of light can be the arm, or even though this is a cylinder, for example, it has flat surfaces, and these flat surfaces have light hitting on them and bouncing back, which means that we have to think of it as a separate plane compared to other parts. The easiest planes to analyze might be the ones that's shaped like a cube, where the top part facing the sky is the brightest, and then the sides are darker and the bottom is the darkest. As we know, most of the shapes aren't just a simple cube. It can be something like a flat shield, it can be a plate of armor, it could be a piece of your body, it could be something else, but most of the parts of miniature aren't as simple, like this plank on the Lord of Lights, for example, which sort of has a cube shape. And highlighting this one is quite simple, you know, highlight on top, darker on the side, and then shadow underneath. A plane of light, for example, shows up in a different area. It could be on muscles. So we take this muscly dude, for example, and we take his chest piece, for example. Often when we have these different shapes, we tend to shadow the inner part between the chest muscles, for example. But since this part here is a flat surface and light is hitting straight on here, we need to highlight this area just as well as these parts. So you have this little bended area here that's shadowed, and then the center here is highlighted. And I know this feels weird because we're so used to sort of using just the raised areas as highlights, but that's not how physics work. And the same thing goes for a lot of cloaks, for example, where you think that only the parts that are raised should be highlighted and all of these folds need to be the deepest shadows of the miniature. But if you think about it again, this fold has a flat surface in the bottom, and even though it's folded inwards, it's still facing towards the sky. So this line in here needs to be highlighted just the same way as sort of the cylinder shaped parts on the top would be. So guys, it's been a heavy theory video, and I know that it might feel a bit overwhelming for a lot of you guys to sort of break down your miniature into both a major shape and into smaller shapes. But doing this, pick up one of your miniatures, take a look at it, analyze the different shapes you have, and try to figure out where you would place the highlights. My challenge to you is to do this on one of the miniatures you have in front of you, pick them up and just analyze them and figure out where the highlights would be. And I think from just this one time practicing this technique, just mentally practicing it will be enough to help you take at least one step closer towards making your miniatures look more realistic and to make your eye read your miniature as something more beautiful. So guys, if you like this video, don't forget to leave likes and subscribe, because every week I release new videos. Some of them are more hobby fun related and other videos are more educational like this one. Feel free to leave questions if you have any, and if you want to support this channel, there's a couple of ways you can do that. On my website, for example, squidmar.com, I have listed all of the gear that I use in my videos, whether it's the airbrush, the paints, or just the recording gear that I have when recording these videos. And if you follow any of the links to Amazon, they kick a bit of money back to this channel, which is a win-win. You get the stuff you need and I get to run this channel as my daytime job. If you're in a good place and you feel like you want to support this channel even more, you can go to my Patreon and pledge a few dollars every month. This helps so much during these tough times. But if you're in a situation where you cannot, don't fret. Take care of yourself first. Massive shout out to my top Patreon supporters: Chris C, Jess Goldswain, Russ Prentice, Mark Lober, Robin Svensson, Daniel Santos, and Mark-André Richter. You guys are amazing. I cannot believe the support everyone on Patreon has been giving the last few weeks. It's mind-boggling. Thanks so much, everyone. And with that said, guys, thanks so much for sticking around. Have a great day.